Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Word in Season. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope that this is an encouragement to you. You know, I had a really interesting conversation with someone on Monday who'd recently come back to Australia. They'd been living in Mozambique for quite a long time, so their kids had grown up there. They'd only been back in Australia for about 6 months, something like that. And that transition isn't always easy. But he said one of the biggest adjustments for their kids was the level of anxiety and mental health amongst their new friends at school. And it's not to say that there aren't mental health challenges that exist in Mozambique. There definitely are, right? But he said the level of anxiety in Australia is just at a whole nother level. It was just a shock to them. They weren't used to that. And I find that fascinating. The truth is the research supports it. Here's an excerpt from an article I was reading by the American Psychological Association. It says, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, growing numbers of young people were experiencing high rates of clinical level anxiety. About 11.6% of kids had anxiety in 2012, up 20% from 2007. But during the pandemic, those numbers nearly doubled, such that 20.5% of youth worldwide now struggle with anxiety symptoms, according to meta-analysis of 29 studies reported in JAMA Pediatrics. That's massive. Now, we're so blessed here in Australia. We have so much going for us, but I would say this is an area of weakness for us. There's just something about the way that we live our lives, the pace of our lives, the things that we're surrounded by and consuming on a regular basis is leaving so many of us crippled by anxiety. Now, I'm not going to pretend to understand the complexities of all of that, right? And I think it's worth saying there's a physiological aspect of mental health that's real. It's absolutely real and way above my pay grade. I know that, right? But I also know that Paul says in Philippians chapter 4, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Paul is almost saying, you know what, that life is there. You need to know that. There's an invitation to a radically different way of life. Now, he wouldn't say that to us if it wasn't a possibility for us. If there wasn't something about the reality of God in our lives that would make that a reality. Now, the Apostle Peter says something similar in his letter. He says, cast all your anxiety on him, that is God, because he cares for you. He cares for you. Now, in both of those passages, the invitation is to frame God in. And he doesn't want us to live crippled by anxiety. He says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He wants us to live with an abiding sense of peace. It's not to say that it's always going to be easy or that everything's always going to go amazingly well or be smooth sailing, but with a sense, an abiding sense of peace. And there's something about including him in those moments, right? Or framing him into our circumstances that can make a significant difference when it comes to worry and anxiety. That I'm not alone in this, that God is with me. And he doesn't want me to carry this stuff alone. No, he invites me to lay it before the throne of grace. He invites me to give it to him, to let him carry it. You know, got to be honest with you, I think it's probably one of those things that's easier to say than it is to do, but I've experienced this. I have. Many Christians have. And it means you have to let go, and maybe that's the hardest part for us, but there's something about turning down the volume of the world so that I can tune into God's voice instead that makes a tangible difference when it comes to worry and anxiety. So that's my encouragement for you. We face things in life that are difficult. We live in a broken world, so there's always going to be elements of anxiety, fear, worry, right, that come our way. But what does it look like to actually frame God in those moments? To include him in those moments of worry and anxiety. Where is he in those moments? That kind of stuff makes a really big difference for us. It opens up the way for us to live with a sense of peace in a world that's actually crippled by anxiety. May that be a blessing and encouragement to you today.